Off a phone with one of my students in my mentorship program who has made a really great kind of turnaround inside of her business. So she ever since she joined, she was at about $4,000 per month in her monthly recurring revenue, as well as getting some cleanups. But within the business, there's a lot of things that are kind of going on. So, like for example, if she doesn't know something with her accounting bookkeeping, she tends to really get overwhelmed very quickly. And part of being inside the mentorship program is having someone who's in your pocket, being able to kind of either calm you down, walk you through what can you be doing, making sure you're doing the books correctly, moving forward. But one cool thing that I started doing with her was showing her how to prevent a lot of those different negative feelings, negative emotions, fears, and kind of like emergencies from happening inside of her business. So I want to actually share it with you today. Now, I know this is very different than some other videos that I've probably made, whether you're seeing this inside of the course modules or whether you're seeing this on my YouTube channel. So kind of bear with me. This is something that I've been talking about privately, but I've never really kind of discussed publicly. So the main thing is in every single business, there's different types of problems and different types of like feelings and emotions you're going to get, right? So some people, like when they're starting out, right, maybe they're doing this stuff alone, their kind of nervousness around is like, can they actually go and get clients, right? But once you start getting clients and money's no longer the issues, if we have not kind of dealt with some of the like challenges we have inside of our personal life or just our past or just who we are, right, it tends to kind of play out in our business. And then we have like a lot of either negative feelings, emotions, or just things kind of happen. In some cases, we even sabotage ourselves from our goals, right? So it's like, maybe you got a client that was like 2 grand a month, but you just don't like, you find different reasons why you shouldn't have them. Then you fire that client and now your revenue goes back down, right? But when you actually take a look back, it wasn't as big of a deal as what we thought it was. So I'm going to kind of tell you how I helped her and then just kind of walk you through what I did. So the reason even how I learned this was that when I was first getting started, like once I started getting a little bit more success in my business, like right when I got to like, 4 grand, 5 grand a month in my bookkeeping side, I would have this like overarching feeling and almost be like just like a cloud. And it wasn't like over me, it was like kind of behind me and like over my left shoulder, where it's just like this kind of impending doom feeling. Like that I would just like have this weird event that like I would lose all my clients. They would all like not like my rate, they would change their mind about working, they would find someone else, like just always just this feeling that something was gonna go wrong right inside my business. And it had been kind of coming from, like years of trying and starting businesses that didn't work or constantly moving around and changing school sets when I was growing up, and just this never really feeling like there was much consistency inside of my life. It was actually playing over inside of my business, but at the time I didn't really understand that. I just felt kind of like, man, something's gonna go wrong. I'm not able to do this. I'm not cut out to be a business owner. Like there was all these like negative kind of things that were inside of my head. So I'm gonna kind of walk you through what are some of the different things that I've kind of done to fix that over the past 8 years of being in business. So the good thing is that once you do know how to handle these feelings and you have a process in place to kind of like overcome these different feelings that you have, it does get a lot easier because you stop having the fears as much. Like once your brain kind of learns different behaviors and habits and processes, you can actually restructure the way that these kind of situations come up. So the first thing is that, maybe for example, like some of us have like either we're new in the business and like we have a lot of insecurities, but actually handling client work. Maybe you've had some past trauma inside of your life, right? I don't know your specific situations. I'm sitting in front of you, but everyone has something that's kind of like a hang up or something that stops them. Some people have already dealt with that. Maybe they've done like either therapy, or maybe they've done some sort of release in the past. But maybe if you haven't, or maybe it's just never really crossed your mind, right? They might start coming up inside your business. So I'm not a therapist, I'm not a life coach or anything like that, but this is what's worked for me, and this is what's worked for some of the students in my program. So number one, I always like to do some sort of like daily journal. So I use this thing, I got it probably around Christmas as a present, right? But it basically is a journal that can store all of the different thoughts and just different things inside of my life and my business so I can keep track of it all in one place. So every single night, whenever I'm like watching TV and kind of decompressing and doing my nighttime routine, I generally am going to write, like thankful things I'm either thankful for, I'm grateful for, things I love. So I love my eyes, I love my hands, I love the ability that I can sit and watch TV. I love that I don't have to go and do like a huge manual labor job. I love the fact that I have, a couple of nice cars. I like the fact that I have a nice house. Like I'm just writing on every single thing that I'm grateful for, positive about, thankful, and just happy about, right? And that caused me to constantly feel like I'm just excited and constantly feel like I'm motivated. I notice that whenever I don't do that, I generally tend to get very either like negative or irritated, or it's just very hard for me to just like have a good fulfilled life. So that's number one. It's just making sure I have that, right? It's as simple as like, so you just take your journal page and you're like, I love X. I'm thankful for X. X. Love my health. Love my eyes. Now, for me, I always actually like to say that I love certain things that I really don't like. So for me, for example, my eyes are like I wear contacts and I wear glasses, right? And sometimes as I'm like looking at Zoom over the day or over like the month or over whatever, right? It generally tends to mess my eyes and cause me to have like a lot of eye strain. So that's one thing. It's like I love my eyes. I love that my eyes don't get tired, right? So I'm like speaking things into existence that maybe weren't quite true when I said them, but they become true over time. And it's just constantly like reminding myself that, hey, we are thankful. We do have stuff to go and be happy about. And we've come a long way inside of our life. Right. So it's just stuff like that. So I'm always doing that, right? Now, maybe your watch is like you're like, there's no way I can do this every single night. I understand. Sometimes you might have a family. What you could do together with your family is just even have like a section where you just talk out with like, let's say, for example, you're going to tuck your son or daughter into bed at night, right? You could do 5 minutes of saying stuff that you're thankful for and stuff that you love, and then you could read them the bedtime story, right? Whatever it takes in order to kind of like get some of the stuff done while still having your regular life, right? You could silently do this while you're cooking dinner. You could do it while you're driving home. You could record yourself actually saying the things that you like about yourself and doing this thankfulness and then playing it in the car when you're driving home every single day. That's one thing I used to do as well before I started in business. Well, I would just have positive affirmations that I recorded myself and then just kept playing it. Now it's a little bit different than like doing positive affirmations. You get just a positive affirmation video inside of like a YouTube channel or something. It needs to be personalized to you, and it's generally easier if it's your voice because then your body starts like hearing it, starts registering it, starts thinking about it, and unconsciously you start to talk to yourself in a much more positive manner that's really, really effective for yourself. Next thing is you want to have either a panic journal or a panic calendar. And the calendar can be digital or physical. So this is an old calendar I had. It's from May 2022. It is not May 2022 if you're watching this video in the future. Um, but yeah, so one thing that happens, especially when you start dealing with client, if you're new, is that maybe a client asks you a question you don't really know how to handle. Now, if you're inside the mentorship program, you always have me or you have like some of my team to reach out to make sure that these questions are answered as quickly as possible. But let's say you don't have that. Let's say that you're just like, you're kind of on your own, or maybe you want to handle stuff on your own. Every single time that you have some sort of panic or feeling, you want to write it on the calendar. So let's say that it's May 11th, 2022, right? Let's say documents weren't sent. Okay. How did I feel? Panic, time of day, morning. Okay. And let's say that 2 days, or let's say a week later, like let's say on the 17th of the next week, it's like clients asked a tough question, a question I didn't know how to answer. Client asked a question I didn't answer. Afternoon, I feel embarrassed, right? And it's gonna be different for each person. Each person can do it, but the point is have it on your calendar, okay? Now, let's say, okay, so you do this every single day, and then maybe either at the end of the week or the end of the month. Most people will probably do it at the end of the week when you're first starting, and then over time you can do it less and less and just do it like once a month. I want you to actually go and take a pencil, either a colored pencil or a colored pen of your choice. Key thing is do not use the color red because red in a lot of cases signifies something negative and it can kind of cause negative emotions, negative feelings, at least for me, right? Anytime I'd have something in red or just I would just like get freaked out and I would attach too much emotion to the things. Like you want to take the emotions out of this process as much as possible so that in the moment when something like this happens, you do not respond emotionally to it, right? So you need to train yourself to it and you can actually do visual cues, visual cues. So let's say, for example, I'm going to use a blue pen. So at the end of the month or the end of the week when I'm reflecting, what I'm going to then say is, was this thing urgent? Was it real or perceived? So urgent or unurgent, right? So I'm going to say in this particular case, it was not urgent. Okay. And then real or perceived. Okay. This was real, right? So I want to have this out. You can use like a blue color pen. It's just for this example. I want to do it. And I'm actually going to then go in color, right? I want to see like when was this thing actually resolved? So I want to see if it was resolved and the day that was resolved. So say it was resolved the next day because I just couldn't get the answer that I needed or I couldn't get the documents. They finally gave the documents to me. And yes, okay, cool. So now I'm putting it in blue and I'm saying it was not urgent, but it was real. Okay. So the next week, what I'm going to do is look at that and be like, okay, so client asked a question. I couldn't answer. It was in the afternoon, I was very embarrassed. I then fixed it on the we'll say I fixed it on the 19th. So I'm going to write urgent versus unurgent, real or perceived. Okay. So I'm actually going to just start writing. I want to see how long it actually takes for me to do. Okay, so that means the 18th was filled in. Sorry, you can't quite see it. But let's say you can. So 18th is being filled in. Like that's when I was taking care of it, and that's when I was solving the answer and trying to find it. Now what I'm gonna say, okay, so this was more perceived, but it wasn't really a problem, it's just something that's perceived because I was able to do it. Was it urgent or unurgent? Okay, so it's unurgent. Okay. So now what you're going to start seeing in life is that, okay, so this problem happened. I was feeling incredibly annoying. I was very angry. I was very embarrassed or whatever emotion you're feeling. But the next day, as you're kind of doing your reflections, like, okay, so this is how I felt in the moment. But even though my feelings, like your feelings are valid, you did feel them, but are they the correct feeling that's going to help you move your business forward, right? Because we all have feelings, we all have emotions, we all want things, we all get disappointed in life, right? But it's like, what do we do with that feeling? And how do we kind of course correct so that we can start feeling a way that's more beneficial to our business? Not necessarily more correct or incorrect, it's just more beneficial to us, right? So, okay, cool. So next month, the document work said, I'm not going to panic as much because I know it's not really urgent and I know it's real, but it's just not something that's going to be like negatively affecting my life and my business. Okay, cool. And then what you can even do too is at the end of the month, if you start noticing, start seeing when could you actually have prevented it. So I want to see what could you have done to prevent it and when should you have started doing that. So let's say, for example, it is the I'm not going to use that because that's a lot of people have a lot of negative connotations around that. Let's say, for example, the person wanted to do a cleanup, right? And you know that you said you gave yourself a deadline for the cleanup, and the deadline was like 2 weeks to have like XYZ milestone completed. And the person started with you on the 1st of May, but on the 11th of May, it was supposed to be done, right? And oftentimes what happens like May 10th, you're gonna get that message from your client saying, hey, when is the work gonna be done? Where are we status report, right? Especially if you're dealing with a construction kind of company or something like that, right? And that can cause a lot of panic, especially if you don't have things done, right? Because then you kind of feel like you're back in school and you don't have the homework done and it's just a very kind of like kind of negative situation, right, for most people. Now over time you're going to start becoming desensitized to that, especially if you start being able to do this activity we're talking about. So let's say, for example, I'm now going to go and say, okay, so cool, so the documents were not sent, so I was not able to go get this thing started until the 10th when they asked for it. Well, where could we have started asking for the documents earlier in order to go and start making the change? So I could done the 3rd, that's 2 days after we started. And the 5th, I could have reminded the person. The 6th, I could have actually given them a phone call. The 7th, I could have actually given them another email. Like, what can my follow-up process have been in order to fix that problem? So I could have been like, email, text, XYZ. Or if you don't know how to write with your pen, you could actually still put it like in black or whatever, and then just color the box. So text first, email next day, call him, leave a voicemail. And again, This is not every situation. No, like this situation is kind of a made up situation, but this is actually how you should do it. Right. You're gonna email first, then you're going to text them, then you're gonna call the person, then you're gonna leave a voicemail, then you're gonna leave a voicemail and an email, then you're gonna call their office phone. Like there is a process to it, and like the steps in the process are right. But I'm just saying, I'm using this as an example because something that a lot of people can kind of relate to, especially if you're inside of like an accounting or bookkeeping business, right? So then what you start doing is you start going, hey, boom, 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 boom. You start coloring inside the box. This pen is extremely like dull and not sharp. You want to start color coding, right? Because now I can start to see as okay, so this panic event happened on 11th, but really the panic attack actually started, the issue and the problem started on the 3rd. Okay. So if I want to prevent stuff from happening in the future like this, I need to start preparing for it right here, right? Because we always in our business, you always want to be proactive. We do not want to be reactive. Okay. When you're reactive, that's when you get panic. That's when things get nerve wracking. That's when you have to take a break. That's when you get burned out over time. If you can free handle the stuff and just know, hey, this thing is going to happen on the 11th because this is kind of what happened in the past, and I can see back to this. Now you can start planning. Now your business is a lot more smooth, and now you actually feel good about business rather than kind of feeling burnt out, irritated, or tired all the time. So that's how I really do it. Okay, so day of the actual event, write it down. What happened? What time of day? What were you feeling? Keep track of when you actually solve this thing. When it's actually solved, write down, was it urgent or unurgent? Was it real or perceived? Okay. You circle one of the two, or one out of the four, or two out of the four, you circle, and then you color the box, right? Then you want to go and backtrack. How long did it actually take? Did it take you 2 days to figure it out? Did it take you one day? Did it take you 3 days? Okay, cool. After that, then you want to go back in time and see when should you have started to actually prepare for this situation so that it didn't actually affect you negatively, or if it did happen and affect you negatively, it wasn't a surprise or a shocker or something that had like an emotional kind of attachment to it. You knew was going to happen ahead of time. You properly planned for it and you were ready. Okay. Hopefully this video helped you out. Hopefully you learned something new. I know for me, when I started implementing these things in my life, oh my gosh, business got so much easier. It's actually funny because like a week and a half ago, I was feeling like I needed a vacation, right? Because we tried doing this new marketing channel, and the way that we're getting the leads were just so much different than what I had been doing in the past, and I got very irritated. So I was like, I need a vacation, but when I actually look back in my time frames, my calendars, I noticed the last time that I was starting to feel like this is what I was doing wrong. This is how long it took me to correct it, and this is what I had to do. So I actually, during the middle of the week, switched it back to the way that I kind of handle different scenarios like that. And I was telling my girlfriend, she was like, "Oh, are we gonna? Do you still need to go take that vacation at this day, this day, this day, this day?" I was like, "Oh, I actually forgot I was gonna take a vacation." Because I didn't need it anymore because I was able to control my emotions and not be burned out. It literally reversed my burnout within about, I think, a day and a half of doing the activity. So it's just like it's so much easier when you can control your mind based on you having processes and procedures in place to make work easier, to make your life easier, to make things more simple, and to take away the negative emotions and instead use facts, logic, and systems to make sure that you control your emotions and you can stay in the saddle a lot longer. I actually didn't even it's funny. I forgot the vacation was even happening. I actually had more stress thinking about the vacation than I had to go do that, but my business was just solid. My lifestyle inside of that was solid. And now you have a business that you don't need to take a vacation from. So hopefully this helped you out. I'll talk to you soon. I'll